quick little disclaimer before the video starts. I tried my best to make this script as coherent as possible with clear sections, but I had a lot more to say than I originally thought. And once I made it to about 4,000 words, the spirit of sloth overtook me, so the outro is a little less organized than the rest of the video. Thank you in advance for your understanding. Now, is my opinion on Katseye necessary at this moment in time? No. But I sent my best friend a 20-minute voice note regarding my thoughts on the group as a whole, and this video is a result of that, because I have a laundry list of issues with the way the group is being handled by their management, from the formation to the concept to the very point of their existence, all of which I'll be discussing in this video. But the main takeaway I want you to get from this video is that Katseye was actually never meant to be a seriously good girl group, who was going to thrive under Hype Geffen with a clear concept that fit all the members and consistent solid releases. Creating a good group was never the point. They were created for experimentation purposes and good old Hype capitalism. And the writing was on the wall from the very start. As an introduction to the main characters of this video, Katseye is a global girl group created by record labels Hybe and Geffen through the reality and survival show Dream Academy, where young hopefuls auditioned or were scouted to compete with and against each other simultaneously through performance challenges, be ranked by a panel of judges and mentors, while earning votes from the global general public in order to secure a spot in the final lineup. And this is where we run into our first problem: the setup. Because all those young girls flying in alone from all over the world had no idea that said world was not only going to be watching them, but basically deciding their fates. The contestants of Dream Academy were unaware of just how important of a role global voting and online engagement were going to play until later into training and competing, leading them to competing under the assumption that talent and work ethic would be the main contributors to obtaining a spot in the group. And that right there is the first crack. Because it clues us in on the first use that Hybe had for these girls: entertainment. Open the floor for girls who would otherwise not have the opportunity to be a part of a K-pop adjacent group through global auditions. Because, make no mistake, the constant use of the word global is not indicative of a genuine separation from the industry itself, a different management style, or even an entirely different look. Katseye is a K-pop group who just happens to release English music, and we'll get more into that later. Make sure not to put a decent age limit because we need those sweet, sweet teenager hopes and tears. And drill it into their heads through evaluations, consistent hours of training, that their hard work is what will determine whether or not they make it, only to pull the rug out from under them through the sudden importance of star power and the ever-elusive and hard-to-pin down it factor. And this is no shade to Manon at all, BTW, she's my bias. It's just pointing out how, unlike tangible skills like singing and dance, star power is impossible to objectively measure or improve through training. The more straightforward, work hard and be rewarded approach took a sharp left into questions of how you came across on camera and personal introductions, pre-existing content of you online and performances to the fans, how high your metaphorical star meter was, and whether or not potential consumers even wanted to see a face like yours in their very own global girl group. Which would be fine if Hybe x Geffen didn't use the power of editing to clip girls experiencing high levels of stress from training to be in a girl group and constantly being compared and ranked against each other. So yeah, some of the contestants didn't really find it in themselves to take all of it with a smile. And make no mistake, Hybe Geffen always knew exactly who they wanted to be in their group Katseye, or at least had an idea, and that's probably the most underhanded tool used in the group's construction. This is made obvious through the specific scouting of now members Manon and Lara, who each had their own section introducing them as a result, placing a specific importance on them in the eyes of the audience, and the general look of the group now. The members of Katseye are all objectively attractive, with cohesive features, similar heights, and similar body types, And the girls were also being weighed during their training periods, which brings me right back to my point of Katseye being K-pop, because the importance placed on maintaining a slender and usually underweight figure is the industry standard. They make sense when they stand together in a line, almost as if they were particularly sought after by the two companies for the visual cohesion. This specific look found in each member definitely makes you scratch your head, especially when thinking back to certain contestants that were popular but didn't fit in with the members we have now, quote unquote. And we all know that a K pop company is not going to leave anything up to chance. Cough, cough, survival show voter fraud scandals. So they used a mix of fan voting and judge evaluations as mechanisms to create a path for the stream to flow into, if that makes sense. Another tactic Hype Geffen used to lure in fans was concept, or rather, alluding to a certain kind of concept through the songs used to practice as the competition got further in, from Buttons to Dirty Water, to the inclusion of heels dancing as a training staple. Something more mature, charismatic, and sensual, with lingering looks to the camera and exaggerated hip movements in time with the beat. But we didn't get that. It was bad enough that they were leading with this particular style while having so many minors as potentials for their final lineup. The sexy nature of those heels choreographies makes them especially hard to watch when remembering the ages of some of the contestants at the time. But to dangle a very much wanted concept in the faces of pre-debut fans, only to turn around and let the six girls debut without a single iota of a connected concept between any of their releases, not even between debut and touch, their first two tracks, is ridiculous. And their lack of a concept acts as yet another one of the issues with Katseye as a group. Because God, they are an absolute mess when it comes to selecting songs for the group when they really should be writing title tracks specifically for them like they did during their debut era. Creative direction regarding their various concepts is in the gutter, and the lack of care or vision when it comes to the overall image of Katseye is astonishingly obvious. From my assessment of Katseye, it's obvious to me that Hype Geffen were either attempting to market them as a concept hopping, chameleon type of group, where you never expect what the theme of their next release will be, but flopped spectacularly, or just really had no concept in mind for these poor girls, which is worse. Way worse. Now, if it was the former, then there are many issues surrounding a company directing a group to take on this shape-shifting concept. But the main ones are that 1. The lack of a clear concept isolates casual listeners who like one track but would never in their life listen to another, both released within the same overall comeback. 2. It wrecks any potential of a recognizable group image, which is essential to cohesive storytelling through releases and musical longevity. And 3. It is extremely hard to execute in a way that entices audiences into standing. When not well thought out, which it isn't when it comes to Cat's Eye, all it does is showcase something no fan wants to realize about the companies managing their group. No one really knows exactly what to do with them, so they just keep doing random things with no long-term ideas for growth sonically and aesthetically for the group. When going down memory lane and looking back at the two full eras that Cat's Eye has had, we can already feel the subtle but very palpable energy of "we have no idea what to do with these girls" radiating off of their releases. Between debut and touch, there is no link between the two, which I would allow if both songs were actually well written apart from each other. But some of these lyrics in debut are so bad it's actually jarring. I don't need no 1, 2, 3, not bourgeoisie, I'll step in. I don't need nobody trying to tell me how to run it. Found myself some baddies, about to turn it to 100. Wanna pull up on us, check in at the gate and come through. That's not good writing. I mean, who exactly is pulling up on Cat's Eye? What about this group reads standing up to authority and having control over their sound and visuals? And listen, I'm no stranger to music artists singing about things they haven't personally experienced. But the problem lies in the fact that Hype Geffen so obviously wants us to believe that Katseye is a group that's standing up to the man, carving out their own path, and not taking shit from big, bad board of executives. But that couldn't be further from the case, something we'll get more into in the next section. Despite this, Touch was a well-written, cute, quintessential, yearning for a boy's attention to not caring about them teen pop song. Great for easy listening with a catchy chorus and an equally catchy, fitting dance. And debut is catchy in its own way despite the strange add-ins here and there. So the critiques flew under the radar, covered up by almost always good outfits and always good stage presence, especially when it came to the vast improvement of Manon after that whole controversy of her being dubbed lazy and undeserving of her spot in the group, which is somehow still an ongoing online discussion despite her improvements. Guys, it's been years, let it rest, and please stop talking about Adela too while we're at it. Then, about a year later, we got introduced to the era where I personally realized that I could only look to the gods above to try to lead these girls into proper management, because Hype Geffen was not interested in giving that to them at all. Beautiful Chaos, with the title track Gnarly. Firstly, the song was a demo, one of two within the mini album, which, much like most of the actions I criticized their label for, isn't inherently a bad thing. The problem comes in from the fact that, much like the other demo, Gabriella, they didn't change a single lyric in either song from what was originally available. Which isn't inherently sinister, I know, but definitely indicative of the larger issue of this company just not caring. Sourcing or receiving a demo for your artist, then deciding that they can just deal with it as is and recording it that way shows a distinct lack of care. Basically just asking them to make do. There is no core theme for Katseye or the direction they're headed in, so any demo they receive is good enough, essentially. Not only that, but once again, the lyrics fail to stick when the girls are singing them. From the original demo of Gnarly, it's clear that this is a satirical song, making fun of a particular subset of people. Think rich and famous, but in a non-traditional way, like through nepotism or influencers making millions in a month. Vapid, always chasing the hot new thing and secretly competing with each other on who can not only be the most current and up to date, but also create the most new trends. Hence the references to the Hollywood Hills, mentioning a brand like Tesla, the inclusion of a gentrified drink like boba tea, slang taken from Black Americans like gang gang, and the attempt to revive old slang to start a new trend. This message falls completely flat in the hands of Katseye. Through no fault of the members, by the way, but because they're a completely manufactured group from their conception, and none of them are exactly underprivileged from what we've seen. They wear nice clothes and drive good cars, and Gnarly just becomes noise when coming from them. A step in a direction that doesn't make sense, with no foresight from the companies handling them. And that sentiment is commonplace. Same with Gabriella, though a much better song in my personal opinion. It suffers from that if it ain't broke, don't fiddle with it approach that the label adopted for Gnarly. Not changing much to fit the vision they have for the girls, because they don't have a vision for them. And this lack of vision was quite brazenly made even more obvious by Hype Geffen through the girl group's latest single release, and what inspired the making of this video, Internet Girl. We were made aware of this song during their Beautiful Chaos World Tour, and I put that in quotes because it's actually an American States tour with a little bit of Europe and the tiniest bit of South America and Asia, but that's commonplace for K-pop acts. Through a performance debut before the single came out this January. And it was something. Definitely something. Now, look, I'll just come right out and say it. I disliked the song heavily from my first time hearing it live, so my disappointment isn't exactly comparable to fans who only felt a certain type of way about the song once it came out on streaming. And my initial reaction was negative because of two things. First and foremost, Internet Girl is not a good song. The production is clanky as all hell, the instrumental is empty, even the way the members' voices were mixed into the song is strange, the lyrics are straight up stupid, the entire song is repetitive, and I felt all of that before the official release. So that damn baby voice was just a rotted cherry on top of the sundae that consists of ice cream made from spoiled milk. Their worst song to date. But I'm at least confident that this is rock bottom, and the lukewarm leaning negative reception towards it will discourage Hype Geffen from ever attempting this whole chasing another Gnarly strategy again. and a group releasing a song way too similar in concept, sound, or message in an attempt to catch the same virality and public reception received by a previous release is yet another common tactic by K-pop companies found in our very own global girl group. Funny how that is. It makes me roll my eyes just how obviously these companies wanted another gnarly. And it makes me smile when I think of how it backfired, because they barely deserve the success they got from the first time, let alone a copycat. This song just represents my biggest problem with the lackluster management when it comes to the group. They saw the success of Gnarly, something they didn't anticipate, and all of a sudden, the very next release also happens to be a silly song with a catchy chorus and vaguely gibberish lyrics. Not to mention the fact that they tried to manufacture the very natural thing that made Gnarly successful in the first place by introducing the song with a live performance after so many fan opinions were that Gnarly made sense after hearing it live with the choreography. Just a lame attempt at recreating a particular moment in time that showcases them dropping the ball when it comes to Katseye due to laziness and greed, if they were even holding the ball to begin with. And the argument usually made by fans is that music doesn't have to have meaning, and you guys just don't like fun. But I heavily disagree. I can and am having fun with some of what Katseye has released, while still being disappointed because they deserve so much more than what this stupid label is doing for them. Throwing everything at the ceiling just to see what sticks as a strategy for your group's comebacks isn't a concept. It's lazy, bordering on full sloth. And soon enough, that stuff on the ceiling that Hype Geffen threw, yeah, it's gonna splat onto the top of their unsuspecting heads. I mean, what was even the point of two extremely powerful music labels joining forces to do the whole survival show song and dance with contestants from all over the globe if not to make a damn good girl group? The answer to that question is two simple words: making money. Of course, the only reason Hybe and Geffen would ever band together is to attempt to create their very own joint money machine. Enter Katseye, with their marketable uniform look as a group, ready to act as living billboards for the highest bidders, something showcased clearly in their abundance of sponsorships. From Takis, to Fendi, to Glossier, to Gap, to Jollibee, to Google Gemini, to that gum brand whose name I don't care to search for, and so many more as time goes on. Yet another reason I dislike Gnarly BTW, because they had the gall to throw Takis into the chorus and drink boba tea from Jollibee in the music video like one ad wasn't enough for them and their cash-hungry selves. My point is that the point of Katseye as a group was never to actually make good music with concepts particular to the members. It was always about debuting beautiful girls with talent and then having them act as vessels for brands to make money through an up and down discography and countless advertisements and deals. The group has no discernible concept, no meaning behind their releases, no heart outside of the members themselves and the fandom, and really no reason for existence other than lining the pockets of the highest level executives at Hybe Geffen and at the two companies respectively. And of course, since we live in a capitalist society, this can be said for every single music act that has existed at a powerful record label since maybe the 70s or 80s. But the blatant nature in the way they handle Katseye is rare and leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So now that you know all the issues that I believe are plaguing Katseye due to their mismanagement, follow-up questions need to be asked. How did they gain fans while Hype Geffen treats them like this? What makes it possible for Katseye to be so messily managed the way that they are, release a song like Internet Girl completely seriously and expect good results, and slide past controversies and bad business decisions? It's the fans. Or more specifically, they're extremely parasocial and delusional fans. Even more specifically, a subset of those particular fans that suffer from the same classic parasocial delusions that most fervent stans of pop artists have. In the case of Katseye fans, they hold two specific beliefs that fall under what I would classify as delusions. The first being that the members of Katseye have way more creative control over what the group does than they actually do. And the second being that Katseye, despite being under one of the most influential and powerful K-pop companies today, is completely different from K-pop idols and the industry. And not only are they both false, they're strategic and connected. And the circulation of them leads to Katseye fans indirectly defending the very corporations that are mismanaging their so-called faves. Said fans don't even realize that these permeating beliefs grew from seeds sowed by Hype Geffen themselves, because they knew it would work in their favor once widely accepted by majority of the fandom. And they unfortunately couldn't have been more correct. Probably some of their best work to date when it comes to this group. On the belief that Katseye is completely separated from the K-pop industry because they're a global girl group, this works in their favor because it allows fans to view the group outside of the pre-established lens of exploitation, control, and mistreatment that we associate with the dark side of the K-pop industry. This gets spread through it actually being true, to some extent. I mean, the members can curse, they lack the robotic media training often found in junior K-pop groups, they have personal social medias, some of them have tattoos, and some of the members have even publicly addressed their sexualities. But if I'm honest, besides being out sexuality-wise, since South Korea is still especially conservative when it comes to that matter, the above I listed are all things that K-pop idols can and have done. Depending on the company they're under or the number of years they've been in the industry, tattoos, cursing, real personalities being showcased, personal accounts, and even partners aren't exactly not allowed. This supposed separation also allows the fans of Katseye to not see themselves as K-pop stans, who are seen by the general public as completely delusional, rabid, and incapable of accepting criticism of the idols they love, to a higher degree than international pop stans outside of the industry. But Katseye fans are K-pop stans, in denial, clinging to that same global label just like Hype Geffen. They collect photo cards, spam vote for Katseye and ask people to do the same in comment sections, and force themselves to like releases. They're also toxic in the exact same way that K-pop stans are, blindly defending Katseye from criticism even when it isn't directed to the members themselves, because they aren't aware of the fact that said members aren't in charge of their own group. Back to Katseye themselves, K-pop staples like the photo cards in their albums, a light stick, representative objects for the different members, and going on Korean music and variety shows for their debut and first comeback are present in their promotions too. Another instance of Hype Geffen marketing Katseye as K-pop and not K-pop simultaneously whenever it suits them. They want the deeper parasocial bonding of K-pop stans while using the less conservative, more overtly sexualized way of performing in typical global pop acts. The best of both worlds. And this distinction Hybe wants to make between their global girl group and their Korean counterparts leads into the second belief, the illusion of control in terms of the members. K-pop is known as a space where heavily curated and strictly controlled groups are the norm, and Katseye not being perceived as K-pop implies that they sit under more Americanized record labels in terms of creative control, where we see younger, more popular artists being able to make creative calls in terms of their concepts and music being a more common practice, though definitely not always the case. Hype Geffen wants the fans to believe that the members of Katseye have all, most, or at least some of the control when it comes to, well, Katseye. They want you to think that Sophia, Mano, Daniela, Lara, Megan, and Yoonchae are sitting in on meetings pertaining to their comebacks, tours, and brand deals, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Little moments like Mano having the idea to braid gnarly into her hair, and the MIA outros are used as proof. But the word little is extremely important in that sentence, because that's what these snippets are. Minuscule and inconsequential in the face of every other major and minor decision that gets made for these girls on a daily basis without any input from them. They get their album visuals in all their lack of cohesion shown to them after they've been made. They get their outfits picked out, and do not even try to mention that clip of Danny rolling up her top in the Mama Behind the Scenes video, because you can see it remains as is in the actual performance. They get their songs written and produced with no input from them, seeing as they aren't credited as producers or writers in any of their tracks to date. and they get their choreography taught to them as is without anyone asking for their involvement for any of those processes. Which all very much sounds like typical K-pop management to me, but what do I know? All, most, or some control looks like close to none when it comes to the members and how they influence the inner workings of the group beyond how they perform and how they interact with the public. Two things they actually have full control over. And we can definitely see this in the missteps taken when some of them speak publicly. Because they're all still quite young and being thrown under the bus by the companies that should have media trained them extensively already, though their words are still their own at the end of the day. The benefit of having a large part of your artist fan base convinced that the members are running the show when they don't even get to touch the remote is built-in defense when you fumble. These fans hear criticism of the music, the marketing, or the overall image of Katseye, and they instantly go into justification mode, because they perceive these attacks as slights on the members themselves, since they're obviously so different from those bad K-pop companies and definitely sign off on every decision before it's made. Note the sarcasm. They feel personally affronted by anything spoken that isn't completely positive, because they think that Katseye actually controls Katseye. This leads to droves of angry fans flooding comment sections of videos like this one with comments like, "You're a fake fan," or "Just say you hate Katseye and go," because apparently being in a fandom means being a 24/7 yes man. Because the truth is, if you get hurt or feel a sense of injustice whenever someone has a problem with one of the facets of the group outside of the members themselves, who people can also have problems with, by the way, then congratulations. You've been duped by a company that wanted you on the front lines defending their misdeeds and crappy decision making. So they tricked you, subtly, by creating artificial distance between the way they manage their Korean acts and the way they manage them. You can see this working full force when people comment about being grateful that we didn't lose Yoonjae to K-pop, when whatever group she might have ended up in there would have only been marginally more curated than the one she's in right now. But instead, we get to have her twerking during the gnarly pre-chorus while still being a minor, and yes, this is different from a minor twerking for fun in the comfort of their own room, because that minor chose to do that and didn't perform that action for hundreds of thousands of people at the direction of their employer. We get to have an official company photo of her in a skin-tight suit on her knees, also while still being a minor, and weird fans being way too excited for her 18th birthday. And the whole Yoonjae defense also banks on the fact that teens can express themselves sexually, which, though true, doesn't account for the existence of teen entertainment employees like her being directed by adult figures above them. So stop that. And while you're at it, stop going online to do unpaid labor for the businesses that you should be mad at because they're not doing a good or even decent job with Katseye. Don't be so easily fooled by small instances and get fully behind the lie that Katseye has control, because it leads you to defending the members when they're not even the ones being addressed. Them liking a song while we don't doesn't mean they had anything to do with it, and we don't actually know the members, so knowing their true feelings about their musical direction is impossible. They need to be employees of the month too, you know? Ultimately, Katseye has a myriad of problems due to their management, which directly led to this surge in unstanding and questioning the direction of the group. They're a K-pop group not being sold as one, with K-pop fans who don't think they are, and a K-pop level of creative control while being masqueraded as though they have more. And these fabrications, coupled with Hype Geffen making them available to be used as billboards, to having their entire discography be one big experiment done by unprepared scientists mixing random chemicals together, could very well lead to their potential downfall. Not through losing stans, because they'll always have their ride or dies, but through losing credibility as genuine artists, or not even gaining it in the first place. Which is a shame when looking at the lineup that Hype Geffen had to work with. But that's just what we have to face as stans of a group under the K-pop regime while desperately trying to keep the label of global. Let me know your thoughts on Katseye, the fans, and the direction Hype Geffen is taking them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.